Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a particular movie, one particular movie, usually. And we'll get to that movie in a little bit. But first, I want to invite you, the listener, to join us in the fan vote. That's right. The fan vote happens during Tay's episode. So if you get your movie recommendations in early enough, it'll make it onto the next vote, which will be probably about a month or two from now at this point. But you got time. We're always accepting more movie requests. Whether it be in the YouTube comments in the YouTube comments on the most recent episode of Film Freaks, or send us an email at ff.filmfreaks with a Z at the end at gmail.com. Or, of course, you can chat in the Discord, in my Discord, the Ferret Nation Discord, in the movie stuff section, and also recommend movies there if you so desire. Whew. All right. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves before we introduce the movie. I am Yemmy the Duke. Who am I here with?
Dune waffles.
Baron Tay.
And Cal as Gabe.
And we are also joined by a special guest today, a runner of Sci-Fi Discord and a local chatter in most Twitch chats. Who's here with us?
Hello there, General Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back,
Yeah.
Kenobi.
Thank you for having me
Welcome.
again.
The live audience
Hello.
is applauding. You
Yeah,
can't hear them,
me.
but they're
Yeah, me.
applauding.
They're doing the slow clap. They're just taking a while to speed up. Come on, guys. I told you faster. Come on, hurry up.
Speed it up.
Kenobi, what's new? How's it going since you were last on? The last movie you picked was Blade Runner. What's been going on since then?
Oh well, dealing with Luke, sometimes. And Darth Vader. Last time.
Yes. Those troublemakers, those
He's a
scallywags.
pesky one. He
Yeah.
really is.
That
I-
Darth
I-
Vader.
Since Qui-Gon put me in for babysitting for both Skywalkers and Yoda, oh, it's been a mess.
You got a lot on your plate. I understand.
I can't wait to become a Force ghost.
No problems being a
Oh,
Force
man.
Ghost. You don't have to worry about anything.
No, still surviving pretty much.
Well, Kenobi, do you have some time in your very busy Jedi life to talk about a movie with us?
Of course. So I picked this on a specific channel, which it was weird that one of the Jawas connected me, and I saw this magnificent movie. It's called Dune. It's the Dune Part One, released 2021. So is what it's so it's been directed by Denis Villeneuve. The writers are John Spates, Denis Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. The cast are Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Steven McKinley Henderson, George Brolin, and Javier Bardem, and well, there's many more.
Many more, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of famous faces that we can see. So what's the movie's about? Well, it's a noble family becomes embroiled in a war for control over the galaxy's most valuable asset, while his hair becomes troubled by visions of a dark future.
So
Yeah.
Star Wars, but not.
No, not really.
No.
Been
We have to
Nice
make
try.
sure
wow.
we get the Star Wars reference in early in this
Oh
podcast.
wow! I already hear. I
I
already.
think that Kenobi's name is enough for that.
Oh wow! I already hear the Tatooine Sunsets music from John Williams. What have you done? Yeah.
Well,
So,
Kenobi, where do you want to start? Yeah.
Well, so I wrote some facts on trivia, as always, And we're gonna evaluate the movie by five categories. The first one will be screenplay. Second will be acting. The third one will be cinematography. The fourth one will be mise en scène, and the fifth one will be music and sound.
I didn't know there were going to be that many. I thought it was just
Yeah,
going to be
man.
part 1 and 2.
What do you mean one and two?
Well, the book's like part 1 and 2. I was thinking that it was just going to be Dune part 1, Dune part 2, and that was going to be it
Well,
until they
there's like
see how
5.
the.
Yeah, so there's
I
a
know
lot
there.
of
I
Dune
know there's
books.
5 books, but
Yeah.
I was saying like I didn't know that they're going to make more than just part 1 and part 2 here.
Well, the reason they created part one, part two, is because one of the fact that I can mention right now is because when Denis Villeneuve is being hired as a director, well, is because he asked a request because the book is kind of a large and there's a lot of stuff details put into it. So he was asked if he could make a part one and part two. That's why. So
Well,
he
yeah, I understand why they made it part 1 and 2. I didn't know they were going to do more movies after part 1 and part 2. I thought this is where they're gonna keep it for now until they see the reception, which obviously was very good for the part 1. So maybe that's why they greenlit more movies.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
I
yeah.
mean, having 5 parts to a series like that might be a little rough. I thought it was
No,
only
no,
like
no,
a
no,
part
no.
one.
Not five parts. We're gonna talk about the movie
Oh, in 5 parts.
that
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
in
five,
five
five,
parts.
five
Oh, okay,
Oh,
topics
okay.
for the
Oh,
review.
I thought you were saying there was gonna be like 5
yeah, same.
sequels. I was like,
I thought you were saying that they were making a movie for each book after
I
part
was
1 and
like,
2.
oh dang.
No, I don't know
Oh,
if Denis
apologies.
I don't know if Denis Villeneuve wants to wants to do other books, but well,
Yeah.
actually they're not five books. They're six books. So
6, yeah.
there's
Yeah, so
six
I
movies.
do know the books because I watched the like honest trailers, whatever, and they kind of like briefly talk about the other books, and apparently they get really weird.
I bet.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean, the book for Dune is already pretty weird to begin with.
Yeah,
The movie does cut back on some of the weird things that happen throughout, but I mean, just looking at the Baron's design, that's that's he's a big dude in like a spider chair, which is already kind of weird, and it just gets weirder from there. But there's a lot of
yeah,
detail in both the movie and the book that they get pretty spot on. Yeah, I really liked watching this movie again because I recently just finished part 1 of the book, which kind of ends where this movie ends. And it was really fun kind of comparing and contrasting in my mind while watching it, and they did change a fair amount of things, but I felt like the changes were actually good. I kind of liked a lot of the things that happened in the movie better than how they happened in the book.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that actually, like how the book compares to, because you said last episode that you read the book and
Oh, I just
you're
said it not
in,
right now too.
yeah, you said it right now too. But I was gonna say, like, you referenced earlier that you read the book, and I was gonna ask you how it compares. So that's good. That's good that it goes along with it.
Well, yeah, it goes along with it for a lot, but it also has to change a bunch of things just for time's sake and stuff like that. One of the scenes that I actually liked what they did and changed it was the scene where the sand crawler or whatever you want to call it, it breaks down and they have to evacuate. In the movie, obviously the cable snap and the thing that takes it away is lost, right? In the book, it's just like the thing just doesn't show up, and it's like that's much less interesting than the thing coming in and then showing how, like, it's just old and it's in disrepair. Like, it shows in the movie, like, hey, the Harkonnens left this equipment terribly, it's in a terrible condition, and it shows that. In the book, it just kind of goes, it just didn't show up, we lost it somewhere, I don't know. That's one of the scenes that I like the change in, and there's a few other scenes that I also like how they change things. One of the things that I do kind of miss is there's a character in the book who is like the right hand or like a mercenary or whatever working with the Baron. He's just kind of non-existent in the movie, which is unfortunate because he was a pretty big character in the book.
Said it's
Huh,
just
maybe I'll
Dave
come in for
Bautista
part two.
standing around.
Yeah, it's just Dave Bautista, and he just doesn't
It's
really
like
do much.
he's like, hey, I'm here. Don't forget about me.
Right.
I'm hoping he does more in the second part.
I'm sure he would. Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll
His character
see.
was supposed to die, so yeah, who knows what he's
No.
gonna do.
Huh,
At least I
interesting.
think that's the same character.
I thought the
Because
Baron for sure was gonna die, and then he was gonna become the new Baron, and like he was gonna be even worse, like more evil. But guess
The Witch
not.
yeah,
Baron.
because in the book there's this mercenary who comes in, and I think it's
What's
Dave
his name?
Bautista's character. I can't remember at this point. But he's in the room when the poison gas goes up, and he's the one he dies, which means that someone else has to kind of step in and take over his position as like the leader of the forces or the army or whatever. And that's also another interesting aspect of the
It's
book.
not what's his name? Feed Ralpha? Feed
Mm,
Ralpha?
I can't remember the name. It's been a while since I got through that part of the book, but I just remember in the book he was there in the throne room, and he dies, and the Baron's like, well, fuck, I guess we have to just grab a random soldier and promote him at this point, and that's what he does, and it's an interesting section of the book.
Hmm.
Or it's a weird character to kind of leave out, I guess. Like I would have liked the scene in the movie. I would have liked to seen more Dave Bautista doing his thing and then die in the throne room scene and kind of be replaced for the second movie. Just because that would follow along with the book a little bit more. Like I said, that's the one thing between the book and the movie that kind of I was like, I wish that they did this.
The,
Maybe that sets up for a second part that will be more intense and more action
But
packed. I
yeah,
mean, I don't want to
but
say
this,
action packed, making it sound like part one was boring, but it was just like more going on, I guess, in the second part.
well, the main question is is the movie faithful to the book at least?
oh yeah, I feel yeah, that for sure. I don't know if you agree, but I felt like the book and the movie can kind of shake hands and be on good terms. I felt like the book and the movie really go hand in hand. Like I said,
That's good.
I
obviously there's some
never.
differences, but yeah, it's pretty faithful.
Yeah, I never read the book, but I've talked to my friend extensively about differences between the book and, well, mostly the original movie. I don't think we talked about this version, but he was just telling me about how like there's just so much details going on, like so much lore, and like for example the guy played by Stephen Henderson, he's like the genius. He gives like people the calculations and all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like this. His brain is supposed to work like a computer to where like he just can make these complex computations like instantly, and there's just so many details like this that are just so interesting, which the movie references, but they don't really go into much detail of anything. They just kind of show, oh yeah, this exists in this world, and then they just move on.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things they had to kind of like shave down just because it's a movie, and people aren't going to sit through 3.5 4 hours of Dune, even though that would be great.
It
But
would be a lot
for
of exposition.
I think what they removed from the book and like the extra things, I mostly see that as like, yeah, they trimmed the fat on the book. I mean, obviously there's a lot more going on, like you said, lore wise in the book. Like it goes into detail as to what the whole the first part where um the Paul puts his hand into that weird box thing. Like they go into more detail about why he does what's going on there, right? And in the movie they just kind of skim the surface, like, oh, you're
So
the
why does
whatever.
he? Do you remember?
It's some sort of like test for the for oh my god, I'm like blinking on the lore snippets, but it is a test, and they explain that like he's supposed to endure the pain, and if he removes his hand then he's not worthy of being whatever they're called. So yeah, it just kind of talks a little bit more about that. He has more of a rapport with the old woman too in the book, like more goes on. um but like I said, like in the movie it's still fine because you don't need all the extra dialogue, you don't need all the extra lore to kind of understand what's going on. Like you obviously
With
know this
the
is some sort of test and he needs to pass it.
yeah, with the lady from the Ben Gesserit.
Right.
So yeah, me.
Yeah.
Since you read the book, Do you know which character was changed?
Well, I know that the what's their name? The person who is like the master of the planet, who like looks over the planet.
The
Is it?
ecologist?
Yeah, I know that they changed that character.
Yeah, they changed pretty much. They changed that character pretty much.
Yeah, it was a gender swap and
Yeah,
also a
it
little
was
bit of a
just so.
personality change as well.
Exactly, exactly. Yep, yep, yep.
Was there anyone else that they drastically changed?
No, no, just mostly just for the ecologist.
Well, I mean, the
Okay.
one guy doesn't play an instrument in the movie. Paul's trainer. He's supposed to be a hunchback, and he's supposed to be able to play like this bagpipe type instrument really beautifully.
Really?
They removed that, unfortunately.
No, there was that guy playing the bagpipe. Not great, but
Are you talking about Josh Brolin's character?
I believe it is Josh Brolin. Yeah, but yeah, in the book he's like a hunchback, and he's really good at his art, and he plays this instrument. And um, I was kind of like, oh, it would have been nice to hear some bagpipes played by this character. Not really. I'm fine with them leaving that out.
Yeah.
A whole
Surprisingly,
scene of him just playing.
Jason Momoa's character has also changed a little bit. In
Duncan, Idaho.
yeah, Duncan was changed a bit, mostly towards like the middle when the obviously they're kind of like little bit leery on Lady Jessica, whether she's a part of like the conspiracy or whatever, which is not shown in the movie. There's two separate hits on the Duke that doesn't go through, but they're leery on Lady Jessica and
Which one's
Jason
Lady
Momoa.
Jessica?
What?
Lady Jessica, the mom.
Yes, the
Yeah.
mom. Yes.
Okay.
She's in the book. She's more like they're like, oh, we got to be careful with her. Blah 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 blah. And Jason Momoa's character is supposed to like stumble in drunk one night and spill the beans, and that's like a whole plot point leading up to the actual assassination of the Duke. So, um, that's another thing that was kind of changed too. But also, Jason Momoa's character is actually pretty on point, except for they removed that aspect of his character where he's also a drunk.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they just want to put him as this strong, fearless warrior, kind of a like I wouldn't say a spy, but more like a what you call them, like a sort of like not enforced, but like more knowing, like they set him in a scout, like a sort of scout warrior type. I'll say.
I guess they
Yeah.
wanted the audience to like sympathize with him a bit more, like when he died.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I guess. I mean, they already kind of have like him and Paul have that relationship that they have in the book and the movie too, like where they're kind of friendly with each other. So I guess that's enough of an emotional gut punch when he eventually
Mm,
dies.
yeah.
I do have a figurine of Duncan.
Yeah, and also like the scene where Duncan is talking about the customs of the people who live on the planet. Like that's also pretty accurate, But the spitting, at first like they think it's a act of, you know, um, not war, but just disrespect. And Duncan has to be like, no, 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 we're sharing water, we're sharing our body's water. Like that was actually pretty accurate to the book as well. It's in a different era. It's in a different place, but it's the same dialogue pretty much.
Hmm. Okay.
Other than
What
that, I
are
can't really think of any other major differences. I mean, obviously they trimmed the fat, like I've said multiple times now, but
Yep.
for the most part, the movie is pretty faithful to the book.
And like, does the movie leave off like very close to like the halfway point of the book?
The book goes on a little bit longer uh after part one is done. Like there's actually the movie goes a little bit longer than the book's part one.
Hmm.
But they leave off relatively at the same area. Like there's some other characters you kind of follow after the whole part where Paul and his mother kind of get stuck under the dune and they have to escape. There's a couple more like characters you gotta like catch up with up until they get to the point where the movie ends. So it's like part 1.5 technically. But there's still a lot of book left. I mean, I yesterday I looked at not yesterday, Friday. I looked at how many pages I have left in the book, and I still got a pretty big meaty chunk left. It is a very very long book, but it is very interesting. If you like sci-fi and stuff like that, I mean, it's very detailed. It's a very good read. It's a little bit tough of a read, but there's a lot to like in the book too.
Why is it tough?
Just all the terminology and stuff like that. I still can't pronounce Benny Gerset correctly. It's just one of those things. It's said so often in the book, and I stumble over it every single time I'm reading it in my head. It can get a bit tough at times.
Right, understandable. Vinegar suit or whatever.
Words are hard, you know.
Words
Yeah, well,
are
especially words
hard.
that they make up for the book.
But just read.
So, Kenobi, what was the next topic of discussion?
We're gonna talk about the screenplay of the movie.
Oh, best part.
The best part, how it's been written, how is the script being developed, the
Visual,
dialogues.
visually, this movie was phenomenal. Like this, by far, was probably the best part of the movie. It's visually great. Like cinematography, phenomenal. Matches every element of the movie. I think that was the best part.
Actually, that
Yeah,
belongs to
I agree.
cinematography.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean
sorry.
the
Yeah,
movie looks great. Like you said, cinematography is fantastic. I like how a lot of the scenes are framed. And the CG is also really well done in the movie. Like,
phenomenal.
in
Yeah.
10
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
I don't think we're gonna be looking back and going, "Oh, that aged poorly." I think it's really top notch.
I mean, I know it's a 2021 movie, but still like they're ahead of their time, even for like a
Well,
2021 movie. It seems like.
it is. It is. It is still beautifully written. The fact that, well, it was pretty common. You don't have to talk a lot just to understand what's going on. Just by looking and understanding like what's happening, you already know. Like, yep, it's pretty cool. I see
Yeah,
what's going on.
and the music plays a big part in that too. Like the swelling soundtrack and the orchestral movements, like everything kind of combines along with the dialogue and the visuals and stuff like that. It all combines into like a really really beautiful movie. You know, um, I think it's one of the best looking movies of 2021, and I think it did win a couple Oscars. I don't remember
It won
exactly
a
for
lot.
what.
Let me
Yes, I
check.
believe so.
It won a lot.
Uh,
A
six Oscars.
Yeah,
lot of
deservedly
Wow.
so.
nominations too. I know
100,
nominations or anything, but
168 wins and 281 nominations in total.
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
Quite a
they
lot.
definitely got the funding for however many movies they want to do in the future.
Yeah, I think like if you're adapting a movie from a book, especially a book this complex, it could go like either way. It could be like a complete disaster, probably like how the '80s Dune was. But for the writing on this one, I think it's just like very very good, very tight, and yeah,
Well,
they did a really good job.
well, you have to be a fan to love what you're doing, and that's why, which is a fan fact because Denis Villeneuve is a fan of the Dune series. When he was a teen, he read the book, and he's this long-standing dream to actually to make it happen. You know,
Yeah,
Hmm.
and eventually the company and the Frank Herbert's son Brian said that Villeneuve has a green goal. He's got to do it.
yeah, that '80s movie. I've never seen it, but it's pretty poorly received on Letterboxd.
Hmm.
Um, it's just I think the main difference is obviously the time '80s is pretty long ago at this point, but you're also trying to have this whole like 1,000-page book shrunk down into like a 3-hour movie, and I think that's why this Dune, part one, is gonna be obviously it was much better received, and I think it's gonna do a much better job of telling the story than that '80s movie because it has the time, and and I think they cut down uh, the best way that they could between the book and the movie. So that I have more faith that part two is going to be even better, but part one is still phenomenal.
It is
Yeah,
phenomenal. I
Yeah.
really
Agree.
loved it. I really loved it.
I get big like Lord of the Rings vibe, like with the comparison of the book to the movie, kind of like how that's gonna go. I think that's what you're kind of hinting at, I guess.
Well,
Eh,
but
that's a whole different conversation. But
Yeah, I
that's a
mean,
different
but
conversation.
but
Well,
just for a
the
comparison, though.
not really.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they cut out of the books from Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, the whole trilogy. I think they cut more than they should have
You,
because there's a bunch of
yeah.
characters who just don't show up. But
And they
um,
also change a lot of stuff in the movie done in the book in Lord of the Rings.
yeah, the movies are still like all across the board 5 out of 5s. But if you read the books compared to the movies, it's a completely different experience.
It is a completely
With
different
Dune,
experience.
though, just to bring it back around, you could read the book, you can watch the movie, have a very similar experience.
That's
You're
really
pretty
cool.
much in the same wavelength.
Right. Exactly.
That's gotta be quite the accomplishment if you think about it.
Yeah. Think about how many books turned into movies have gone wrong, and
Yeah,
this
exactly.
one somehow does it perfectly. I'm sure there's people who are like, "Oh, but they didn't do this." Like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a couple things that they might not have done that you want specifically, but as a whole, I think the movie does a great job of adapting the original work.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see the problem, like, bro. I'm like, come on, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just to say, like, I watched the movie before reading the book, and the movie actually made me want to read the book. So, I got like the whole collection set of I got like Dune book 1, 2, and 3 from a local bookstore. And so
Nice.
a lot of people, they read the book, then they wanted to see the movie. Me, I kind of reversed that. I saw the movie and was like, this is so good. I want to read the book, and learn more about the universe.
Hmm.
Well, some stuff I got spoiled from the lore before a little bit. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
yeah because Dune is the universe inspired so many other like fictional words like Star Wars, Warhammer 40K, and there's some stuff when I read it in the forums. I was like, okay, okay, you know. So already people write in the forums. I'm like, okay, so I don't know. I'm like, I guess at some point. I have to get the Dune books, you know.
Yeah. You gotta.
Yeah.
You gotta now.
And a funny thing, somebody wrote in one of the article. I'm not sure it's an article, but it's just like one of Notion. I'm like, Warhammer 40K. Where's Warhammer 40K? So I'm like, it's Dune meets Starship Troopers. I'm like, what? Really?
Well, that makes sense, though. It really does.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
think
yeah,
I know Dune inspired like it's not really a race, but a race of desert nomads for the Wheel of Time series. Like,
Oh,
yeah, there you just like watching this last night. I was like, okay, yeah, I can definitely see this um, where the IL came from in Wheel of Time.
yeah.
The Wheel of Time. Did you say Wheel of Time?
Wheel of Time, yes.
Ah, yeah, the fantasy, the fantasy. Yeah, 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 I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's I heard a lot of great stuff about the books. About the TV show, not so much.
TV show the Amazon one is was really good until like the very last episode where they made some choices that were like, wait, what? But we'll
No,
see.
I seen it, but people still complain it, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna fit it. I'm sure I'm gonna go
Well,
watch this.
people
again.
complain
That's
just because people are complaining about
all.
everything.
Well, anyways, yeah.
People are complaining because, oh my gosh, it's like a society run by women. How can that be?
Oh, jeez.
It's,
Yeah.
it's pretty much
Which is-
not it.
That's yeah.
But if you read the books, yeah. But I think people just that's the problem we were talking before about the. I mean, Cows talk about how Cows and Greedy about how the books are comparing to the movies and how we make them that people have to get so they can be made beautifully, and most of the part is always like this. It's either hit or a miss. And if it's a miss, it's too bad. That's it. It's like who's gonna take it back? You can't redo it anymore
Yeah.
unless you reboot it in some way from another company's going to take it. But you know how many times it's going to take. I mean, we're probably not going to live long enough to see before we're going to see another movie of I don't know what the movies that screw up pretty much.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing a food fight, 2025 anytime soon. Yeah,
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. So it's basically a hit or miss, and some. So for me, and taken from Dune, which is like an amazing science fiction novel, and the lore is very amazing. And so when we see the movie and we know from perspective, so people that know from perspective from the book, they're like, "Oh, this is great. This is what we wanted, pretty much. This is what we
hmm
wanted. This is what I asked." You know?
yeah, yeah. And I think Dune is going to kind of go down in history as sort of like the Lord of the Rings has gone down in history now. I think this movie is going to inspire a lot of younger generation to get interested into sci-fi, especially if part two comes out and it's just as good as part one. I think we'll be seeing like a modern classic here before our eyes, and you know,
Exactly.
it's also a modern space opera as well. And obviously you and I
Mhm.
both really love Star Wars. I'm sure there's other people in the chat who also love Star Wars as well, but
Exactly.
that's one of those movies that like kickstarted my interest into sci-fi back when I was 7, 8 years old. I got the box set for Christmas of the original trilogy, and from there it's all the rest is history. So I think the same thing is going to kind of possibly happen with this movie. I know it's not as action packed as like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but it's definitely an important movie, and I think it's going to be one that inspires another generation. Honestly,
For sure. I know when
Well,
I started it, like I was kind of like, "Ugh, I don't want to start this. It's 2.5 hours long." And I was just like, I'm not really in the mood. But finally, I was like, all right, gotta watch this. And within like the first 10, 15 minutes, I was like, okay, no, I'm good now. I'm good. I want to watch this.
yeah, it doesn't take long for the movie to get interesting. Like
Yeah.
they start you off, and there's like all these really crazy visuals of ships flying and stuff like that, and the old lady comes out of the ship with like the everyone has like those pope hats on and all that stuff, and you're immediately like immediately enthralled with like the world that they've built. And yeah, it's crazy. I wish I could watch this movie for the first time again, because I mean my mouth was dropped throughout like the whole thing.
I do like their
Again,
ship designs. Like,
the ship is, yeah.
they're
Oh
not
man,
like,
the Firefly designs,
yeah, well,
or
not even
not
just that,
Firefly.
just their
I mean
other
Dragonfly.
ships. Like, I just like their design where, like, I mean, I'm used to seeing, Star Trek, Star Wars type ships, and these are very different from that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely aren't. They aren't like anything that I've seen before.
Yeah.
But I especially love the Dragonfly design of the smaller ships. I think they're just like so freaking cool.
Yeah, and as people have done more research than me, and I'm just going to regurgitate
Well,
what they said, the design is actually perfect for the desert environment of the planet, because if you had a helicopter rotators, they would get eaten up real quickly
well,
by the sand.
Hmm.
actually, for the vehicle designs and all that, it's been already made from the games. Actually, they already made this in the games, like in the Dune games, pretty much like the first Dune RTS or
From like the
which
90s.
exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
Either way, they're
wow.
very unique
Yeah.
designs.
Either way, they're very
Yeah.
unique.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Speaking of the game,
But
I played the new Dune game. There's a game preview on Game Pass.
Oh, how is
Yeah,
it?
it was
Is
pretty
it?
good. It's like a combination of like Command and Conquer and Civilization, kind of. It's kind of weird.
Oh,
You're
cool.
talking
Hmm.
about the Spice
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 Wars?
Wars,
Wars.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
It was actually pretty interesting. It's in early access still, I believe, so I don't want to like fully dive into it until it's fully released. But so far, I liked what I played.
Awesome.
yeah, they have five factions there. Yeah, I'm just checking right now. Yeah, they have five factions.
Yeah, like when I was watching the movie, I was like, I had that game in mind because I did play it, a little bit when I was much younger, and I felt like I wanted to play it again.
Well, you
But like
gotta, you know.
everything, yeah, everything about this movie just looked visually so cool. Like every scene, every shot,
Hmm.
it's just
Yeah.
like beautifully directed and shot, and yeah, just visually very interesting, very enthralling. Very happy that I saw this in theaters.
I
Oh yeah,
wish I
that
could
would
have seen it
be.
in
Yeah,
IMAX. Yeah,
that would have been a difference maker. Yeah, seeing it in
Yeah,
theaters.
yeah. Unfortunately, this movie released kind of during the pandemic, and I was
yeah,
like, ah.
Because
yeah. It was like
even
really early in the
Uh,
pandemic.
It
Even like the
got it did.
sound, like the sounds of the movies and the scenes was even fucking phenomenal as well.
Yeah, the sound design, audio design, all really good. I can imagine an IMAX studio just vibrating with the soundtrack and the
Hmm.
vehicles going
Yep.
across the screen.
Yeah, actually, speaking about the games, I don't know if you know, but they're gonna make a open world action survival MMO game
Ooh.
I think I
Really?
did
of
hear
Dune.
about that. Yeah,
It's called Dune: The Awakened, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be
yeah.
set on planet Arrakis, which are
Obviously,
yeah,
it's the center of the universe.
exactly. It's a lovely planet where all the spice comes from because you know the saying, huh? Those who control the spice controls the whole galaxy
Oh
or the
yeah,
universe. Was it universe or galaxy?
I
I
think it's
forgot.
universe.
Yeah, the universe. Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of which, obviously the book goes into maybe a little bit more detail, but I mean, do you guys think that they chose House Atreides to take over the planet because they wanted them to be destroyed by the Harkonnens?
That's what they implied, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
the
I mean, the Emperor's even helping Harkins, which that was one thing I was kind of like, okay, but like, why? Why don't you just kill them? Like, why don't take the planet? I don't know. It kind of made sense, but
No,
at the same time, I was like,
Well, I mean, they can't openly side with someone and then destroy. Yeah,
but
they have to use a little bit of finesse, and then politics of the
they
galaxy.
they
yeah,
can't do that because they mention in the book because if Emperor goes against a great major house, other houses will know this and they might go against the Emperor.
yeah,
So that's what they said. If you remember that part when the ecologist, Dr. Keynes, right? Dr. Keynes, that Dr. Keynes, yeah, that's right. When she said, even like what's happening, and it's pretty much just said, you guys came here to set sentence on death, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but little the emperor knew about about poetry. Just
about
Yeah,
what? Oh, the
they
Atreides. Yeah.
in the book they obviously make it more of a point that House Atreides comes and they try to make the planet a better place to work at. In the movie I think they do an okay job at that, but they don't go as far as I would like. Like obviously they save the people in the sand, the spice crawler, and that's a big part of the movie. But in the book, like he's like the Duke is going around and he's trying to make things better. The palm trees that are in the courtyard or whatever, he
Mhm.
has them. He wants to take them out, because they're wasting water, and stuff like that. So the book paints him in even a even better light than what he is in the movie already. And I do wish that they kind of had maybe gone a little bit farther in the movie and like showing like, oh, he really wants to make this place a better place.
Yeah.
so he basically wants to like change like kind of
The culture.
the culture. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
that's
the
what
Harkonnens they rule the planet with an iron fist. Like they don't
exactly. Yeah.
they don't take anything. They overwork their staff. All that kind of thing. They're wasting water on these palm trees, and like because they show it off to like the village outside to just show how powerful they are. They can waste water, right? In the book, they also have like this greenhouse that can be seen from the city as well. That has like all this greenery and stuff in it. It's like its own like little natural habitat in there. So they like the Harkonnens were definitely like bad, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's them. They're going with brutal and cunning, and it's like if they don't stand the value of life, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the fact that like the way the movie opens, you see the I don't remember what they're called now, the Zene or whatever,
The
the
what?
felon. No, I don't, what are
Oh,
the
the
sand
Fremen.
people called? Freeman.
The
Thank you.
Fremen.
Yeah,
Freeman.
Freeman.
You see, yeah, you see them like attacking them, all the Harkins. So it's like, okay, so even these guys don't like the Harkins.
Yeah.
Actually, the intro prologue they were talking, it was pretty deep. Dreams and messages from the deep. You know what I mean? Like basically, like that's like basically what they're talking is was from the perspective of the Fremen. It was the Fremen talking about themselves and how the Harkonnen pretty much how they were brutal and how they were actually get out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they were also curious, like, they and they're just gone one day. Like, what gives?
Yeah, and the movie also shows us as well. Like House Atreus is Atreides is very smart in wanting to recruit the Freemen to help them as well. That's one of the
Yeah.
first things that they do in the movie and in the book is they send people to find out about who they are and what they're up to, and they want to side with them because they're the people of the planet, and that also shows how more how much of a better or house that Atreides was rather than the Harkonnens.
Yeah, the one
Well,
thing I couldn't like totally understand is why exactly like the emperor chose to like side with the Harkonnen.
That's because
Like,
he was afraid the our Trey whatever.
yeah, I understand they said
Uh,
that they feared House Atreides' power or
yeah,
something,
well, because they
but
were because everyone liked them because they were actually nice and good people.
Yeah.
but for them to side with the Harkonnen, like to what end? Like, and now the Harkonnen is going to control, the planet.
Well, obviously, there's some dirty dealings going on in the background because the Harkonnen they've controlled the spice for a very long time at this point.
exactly.
And I think that the emperors knew that taking the seafaring family and putting them in the desert is all one that's going to be a big detriment, and then two, the Harkonnens are going to be angry that their planet was taken from them. They're going to want revenge even harder, and yeah, they knew that the house would fall very
Yeah,
easily.
I
So,
mean, it was
so
basically a death sentence to send them.
yeah, it was a stage coup already prepared by the emperor, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think the Duke knew that. In his
yeah,
dialogue and stuff like that, and just how he acts, like he knows, like he's on a limited time, and he's hoping that the Emperor reconsiders if he shows him that he's able to keep up production and stuff like that. But obviously, that didn't happen.
yeah. Well, he says like one point, he's like, "This is sooner than I thought it was going to be."
Yeah,
It's called Game of Thrones, baby. It's called Game of Thrones.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ever heard about the Red Wedding? Let me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, did you know that Game of Thrones was a little inspired by Dune, but just by some facts of that stuff?
It seems like
not
Dune
surprising.
spiderwebs out
Yeah,
a lot. Like,
yeah.
Bro,
I mean, Dune's
it's
was written when exactly? Like in the
65,
yeah
65.
the
60s.
'60s.
Yeah,
So
1965.
and it's
yeah,
incredible that it stood the test of time. Like even the source material in the book, like I mean, there's so many themes that still resonate with today. And that kind of also goes into how well received the movie was. Is that like it? Even though they're using pages from a '60s novel, it still hits home in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think like the strong suit of the stories is like playing into the human elements, like these interactions and these thrones, and these are things that no matter how much time passes, these things are going to stand the test of time. So it's just like they're just worried about telling a very interesting story about like this power struggle, and I think that's why it works so well even this many years later.
Pretty much.
Was there a topic that we still needed to talk about, Kenobi?
Well, let's see. You guys talk about uh
I know we've jumped
action.
around a little bit. So.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
jump a little bit. Action. Let's go. Action.
Oh, the action.
Yeah, the acting, the
Oh,
actors.
acting.
Acting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll start us off, I guess. Acting,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
There's not one
phenomenal.
character who I would say is bad. Everyone just puts on their best performance. And Timothée Chalamet, is that how you pronounce his name?
To the Michelin, yeah. It's a
Yeah, he
French
does.
name.
He does an excellent job. And for how young he is, he's already has a really great cinema, line of movies behind him. Like he did such a great job.
what was
I
the other movie
recognized
he
him
was
because
in?
he's in the French Dispatch. I recognize him
Okay,
from that, and then he's also in Lady Bird.
okay. Like I knew he'd been in other stuff. I just couldn't remember. I don't know, and I've never seen either of those. So
Well, French Dispatch is a 5 out of 5 movie for me, so you might want to check that one out.
okay.
French Dispatch, that's what he called
Yes, it's by
it?
Wes
Sure.
Anderson.
Yeah. I guess I go next. Well, yeah, the acting is very amazing. I really love the way how it's been made. Everyone's we can see like what their type of characters, who is a little bit different. How is the mother was aware reacting? How is the father was reacting? I'm talking about the Atreides family, of course. How the Conan was shown brutally. Like Dave Batista has a cruel guy. Damn, you don't want to mess with him over there. Especially that scene when they captured in the big plateau the soldier traders, and he just looked at her and then starts like hitting, like trying to like chop them off. You know, it's like, oh,
Right.
that's brutal. That's
Yeah.
brutal. You know, like that's what they show. That's like I love. Like this is a amazing. And of course, one of my favorite, it was of course Jason Momoa, because like the way I performed and the way I was like show, you know, like like he was friendly and everything, like you said. Um, so
I
yeah,
felt
I
like
thought
the
that
role
was.
was made for him too. Like
I,
it fit it fit his personality as like just a normal human being pretty perfectly, you know.
well, you know, because Jason Momoa was also playing like this warrior type of vibe always. I mean, you go
Yeah.
back to Stargate Atlantis or you're going back to Conan Barbarian, he was just playing this type, you know. So for him playing this role was perfect. It was
It
like,
was made
dude,
for him. Yeah.
yeah,
Back
it
in the
was made for
60s,
him.
it was all the way back in the 60s this role was made for him, literally.
Nice.
Yeah, Rebecca Ferguson, who's playing the Lady Jessica, she did an amazing job. Like we could see she had like emotions for her son, like and everything, you know. Oscar Isaac, who's playing the Duke, was amazing. Also, like
Yeah.
we can see that he was also like a different character compared to the mother and son, and he knew what he was trying to do, you know.
Hmm.
And I can go wrong. I can go wrong with Oscar Isaac because I see him in a lot of movies, and most of the movies he does a fantastic job.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Um, then we have Stellan Skarsgård, who's playing the Baron. Oh, he killed it as Baron, bro. He killed
Yes.
it as Baron. Oh, bro,
Yeah.
he's killed it.
I was wishing for more Baron, you know? Like I want more.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
Dave Batista as the nephew is probably the not necessarily the weakest acting. Just he just doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
yeah. That's what.
he's not in the movie too much either.
No,
Yeah.
he's not. He just pretty
Which
much
is
asking. He just asking those questions like, "What's next? Who I
Like
hit
Drax.
next?"
He's pretty much playing
Yeah,
Drax again, you know?
yeah.
pretty much, pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the Baron's performance in this was really, really good. And that's another thing that I liked in the movie more than a book is like in that scene at the dinner table where he's talking to the Duke and the Duke's about to bite down on his tooth. Like the book kind of stumbles at that part, kind of fumbles it. They make the Baron seem a little bit more foolish than he should be. He's like repeating lines and he's like trying to have bigger emphasis on things and like there's a scene where he kills the doctor and he says the same line twice in the book and he's like, oh, you ruined my moment by dying. And it's like, okay, in the movie he's much more threatening and he's much more he's not as much of a buffoon in the movie as he is in the book, which I liked that change of character because it makes him more threatening. He's also a
Yeah.
thick ass boy. Oh.
What I don't
Uh,
get, why do people? Why? I mean, it's a trope I swear in like movies and books. Of characters always trusting the bad, horrible person who's torturing their loved ones. It's like don't trust them.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way in the book where like um, Doctor Yu knows like he kind of has it in his mind that he's like, oh, well, my wife's probably already dead, but I'm going to do this anyways just in case, you know. And it's kind of the same way in the book. And I love that line that the Duke gives right before he's about to die, and he's like, now meet your wife in hell or whatever. And that's just such a powerful line in the movie and in the book itself. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would trust the Harkonnens either, but I mean, if there's any chance that he could have saved his wife, that was obviously the biggest thing to him, and they knew it, so they knew
I
they
feel
had the
like,
end.
well, I feel like yeah, he has said that they're like pulling her apart like a doll, So just imagining like the unimaginable torture that they must be putting her through. I think at that point he knew they were just both gonna die, and he just wanted to put an end to the torture, I guess.
Yeah, and you can also tell that he knew that his wife was probably most likely dead because he was the one who put the tooth inside the Duke's mouth with the gas, the noxious gas, the
Yeah.
poisonous gas.
The
Um,
pose, yeah.
so he knew that he probably was going to be the one to kill the Duke, but he was not the Duke, the Baron. But he was hoping that the Duke would be able to take out the Baron with the tooth if he was
Why
wrong
did
and
the
his wife was
doctor
dead.
put? I was like, well, the doctor should have just put the tooth in his mouth.
Well, I think that he knew that the Baron would get close to the Duke to try and like rub it in his face that he won, but he wasn't
Yeah.
going to do that with the lackey,
Yeah.
with the
Well,
turncoat.
I mean, he
Yeah.
did get close though.
He did, yeah, he got relatively close,
He just should have had one in there just in case.
just in case. Yeah,
Well,
it would have been more likely that they might have discovered that the tooth was in the mouth if they both had one.
Yeah.
well, I think he put it because he knew that he might approach more to the Duke um, than to the Doctor, because he might kill the Doctor easily, so he's not going to approach him much closer compared he's going to approach to the Duke, because the Duke was already all weakened.
Yeah,
Like we see in
yeah.
the scene, like he was trying to talk and everything, like, and it's like, what are you trying to say? And like, bam! And that was a powerful poisonous moment. Everybody in the room was like choking,
Yeah.
and everybody felt like, I'm like, shit. I was like, damn.
Yeah, everyone in there really sold the performance too. Like it wasn't just like oh, I'm falling over. No, it was like an actual like pain on their faces, dying.
Exactly.
And it's amazing that the Baron was able to survive, even though he was like the closest one to the gas when it went off.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he still had his. One, he was able to get away quickly, and the gas didn't spread. But two, he also probably had his shield on in the meeting.
Yeah.
The
Well, he
shield.
did have. He made a point of showing the shield, turning the shield on.
Yeah.
So you see it flash red, and as he's backing away, and then he used his hover spine to fly up to get above the poison.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's
he
what
still
he
got
did.
wounded, and he obviously that's why he was in the mud later
Right.
for healing liquid.
The tar pit.
Yeah,
The hewing of mud.
yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Paul and Jessica are in the chopper, and well, not chopper, but the vehicle, and they're being transported to the middle of the desert. Pretty much they get
The
killed.
doctor.
Yeah, I really like that sequence. And also it's another scene where I think that the movie does it better. In the book it's a little bit muddled with how it all conspires. It's a really tough reading part where you're not sure exactly who is doing what for some reason. It's not really that clear, but in the movie it's like, Paul steps up, he and his mother escape. I love that scene in the movie, and leading into the scene where they're like they have to survive underground in the dune as well. I think both those scenes are really well done. I also like the little gadgets that they get to throughout the movie. The little insect thing that drills through the Duke's shield is pretty cool to watch. The thing that like blasted the sand out from the tent so that they could get out of the dune. The desert was pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool like little gadgets that they use in the movie too that I really like.
It has a lot of like really cool gadget design. Yeah. Just everything about like the world building and set design, the costume design, everything was like just really cool, really interesting visually.
Visually indeed. Anybody else? Greedy?
Yeah, is there anything anyone else wants to bring up? Any negatives? Any negatives?
I would
Mm,
say a negative is the pacing of the movie. I think the movie was a little too long for my liking.
Yeah. It did. It seemed
No,
to drag
not
a little
long.
bit.
Not long, but it's just like movie slowed down here and there.
Yeah, I definitely felt the runtime, especially like towards the end. I was like, how much? So how much longer is this gonna be? Like not like horrible. Not like some of the movies we've watched before, but
Yeah, there are
but a
some
little bit.
slowdown sections that I could feel, but there's so many Like there's so many sections that also flew by really quickly for me too. That even on a second watch, that I was like, oh wow. I didn't on the
Mhm.
second watch. I think I felt the runtime less because I was more interested in comparing the movie to the book. You know.
Yeah. Well, even, usually, yeah. The second time, I feel like you don't necessarily feel like the runtime as much, just because you know where it ends. Um, my first time, I don't know where it's going to end, so it's like, so do I have like another 15 minutes, another hour, or
Yeah,
like I
I will
swear I've been
agree.
watching this two and a half.
There are some slower times throughout the movie for sure. Uh, but I mean, this time around, I really didn't mind it. I know the first time I watched the movie, that was one of my complaints too, where I was like, oh yeah, there's some parts of this movie that really drag. But I guess I'm just more into the lore now, and I kind of like those scenes a lot
Yeah.
because well, I just do. I don't
The
know
one
how to describe it.
scene, yeah, the one scene towards the end, where he has to fight and fight the Freeman guy, and like he's had visions. He kept having these visions that he was supposed to die, but I don't. Then like yeah, he ends up killing the guy.
Well, yeah, the visions actually helped him in the end because instead of like, I want to say like the visions offer some sort of like alternate universe look into into his life,
Hmm.
because he was able to kind of learn the other guy's moves and counteract them because of his visions. Because in the visions he's shown being trained by that guy, and they're kind of like friends in this vision. But
Yeah.
obviously in the real world, they weren't friends, and he had to use his visions to help him defeat the Freeman.
Yeah, the
Okay.
vision
So it was
also
the
helped
same
him.
guy. I thought it was maybe a different guy that we
No,
would
yeah,
see
same guy,
later
same one.
on.
Yeah.
No, it was some guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that vision also helped him save himself, like when they were like in the middle of a sandstorm. Like learning to go with the flow of the sandstorm instead of like fighting against it, and that helped him survive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was able to learn from these visions and help them survive for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, for me, the vision showed me that he has to be a different person, pretty much.
Yeah, he has to be
It's
one with the sand.
Yeah.
exactly. And he has to accept it, and that's what we saw in the end. When you remember, the mother said, "Oh, you must have like rescue ships." Or like, no, we stay here. We stay we stay on the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the visions were maybe from the future, and like he
Well,
was
that's what
seeing
you're
this
led to
like
believe on a first
yeah.
watch is, oh, this is future stuff that's going to be happening. But no, it's actually I want to I think that it's some sort of alternate timeline that he's seen, because of the effects of the spice.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Man,
they could have made
that's
that a little more clear, but I guess
Well,
it's kind of
they
maybe a
wanted to kind of keep
mystery.
you in the dark, yeah, for the most part. And when things do start changing, then you go, oh, okay. So because when they originally show the one guy and him training, like who's this random dude? Like I've never seen this dude before. And then
Well, I figured he'd meet him once he joined up with the Freeman.
right, and then they kind of your expectations get flipped on itself because, oh, okay, I guess they don't become friends. He just dies. you know.
Yeah.
was pretty amazing.
Which is weird because in the alternate universe, they still fought. He got stabbed, but then
Right, there must have
survived.
been some sort of similar confrontation down the line or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also he pretty
It
much
also could have been
delivered.
multiple different timelines
Yeah.
too. Sorry, Kenobi, to
Huh.
cut you off.
Yeah, well, plus he dies over there because he's a pretty great fighter, but he doesn't expect how to fight as a freeman, because remember Duncan said they're pretty great fighters, and even Paul said to Duncan, "You admire them,"
Hmm.
Yeah.
and so when you're fighting against a strong warrior, you can never know what's gonna happen. It's like any kind of battle situations it can happen. That's why. Let's see. Well, I guess we talked about cinematography. What about mise en scène, like special effects, makeup, costumes?
Oh, love the
Yeah,
soundtrack in this.
yeah, we've kind of already gone over that.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
all points phenomenal. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alborn's phenomenal. Okay, what about music and sound? That's the last part.
Well,
Well, I
soundtrack
mean,
we
we
talked
already
about
went over
was
that
good.
Yeah,
too.
we already went over
Right?
that
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
soundtrack fits perfectly with the visuals in the movie. I
exactly. Yeah.
love the droning and the the it feels it kind of feels like Space Odyssey, 2001: A Space Odyssey, in that way, where it's just a very grandiose score, a very grandiose musical
Mhm.
soundtrack, and the visuals match that tone that it's going for.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like all very epic.
Well, that's normal because if you know who's the composer, is he really likes also the movie, and the composer was Hans Zimmer, and Hans Zimmer
Yeah.
he he, he loved the movie. He even declined the offer. That's a fact, actually. He even declined the offer from Christopher Nolan when they did Tenet.
Wow.
Yeah, so he just went for the score for Dune, and it was amazing. Actually, I was like, wow, okay. Surprisingly, shot. Well, surprisingly nice knowing. Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense actually.
yeah.
Because like the soundtrack for Ten, it was just like so different than any all of his other movies.
Let's talk about Sunworms. We didn't talk about Sunworms. What should you think about Sunworms? How the special effect was done for Sunworms, and
Mm.
The sandworms. I mean, we don't see them a whole lot, which is probably good. Like, you definitely get the feel of their size. Like, because when we watched Beetlejuice, I think you mentioned, Yemmy, that like those were originally the sandworms in that were supposed to be used for Dune.
That wasn't me, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's when you said it.
well,
Oh well, but either way, whoever
uh,
said. But yeah, so I'm like, I'm glad we got these sandworms versus just like a little thin like you feel the size on these ones, and if you saw them like popping out of the ground and they were, just long and thin, you're just oh well, why are they a threat? But when the
yeah,
fact that they can eat a whole sand crawler
I
or
hope they do
spice
show.
crawler or whatever it's called in this one, they're done really well. Although I feel like anytime they eat a ship like that, it's like doesn't that hurt them?
It causes indigestion, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
haven't you played Gears of War 2? Giant worms can eat anything and get sustenance
Yeah.
from it.
I see. But yeah,
Uh,
I did find it weird that the last, well, not the last worm we saw, I guess, but the one worm we see about to eat Paul, instead of doing what they've always done, like come from underneath and eat him, it actually like comes out of the ground and just chases him, which I was like, that's a little weird. But maybe it was just because the rocks were nearby and it couldn't get underneath. I don't know.
Maybe.
yeah.
And
That
I
that
just
makes
wish
sense.
that scene had been too dark, like so dark that you really couldn't see anything.
Fun
I did
fact
notice
about
that
this.
a lot of
Go
scenes
ahead.
were dark. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Kenny.
No, no, yeah. Fun fact about the sunworms. They spend a lot of time on the sunworms. You know that it took him a year designing the sunworms, and they wanted something that felt like prehistoric, and they influenced by the whales actually.
Are you sure it
Huh?
wasn't influenced by Tremors?
Well, Tremors got influenced by Dune, so please don't start debating.
It's a big circle. It's all a big circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's not go there. Um, I also want to bring another fun fact is that they brought linguist David G. Peterson, who worked in Game of Thrones, who did the languages for the Dothraki and Valyrian for the Fremen language.
Okay, a linguist. Yeah.
Yeah, language, which is pretty freaking amazing. I have to say, I didn't even know that myself.
Well, yeah, they put a lot of work and time into making it feel as authentic as they could, and you got to
Yeah,
respect that.
yeah,
Very
and
detailed. Yeah.
yeah, we did. Who said it that about the Baron was like large and everything? Was it you, Yemi?
Wait, what? Yeah, the
Yeah, it was
Baron's
Yemi that
big. Yeah.
mentioned the Baron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was Yemi. Well, that's because there's a fun fact. Stellan Skarsgård, the actor who was playing it, they put 7 hours just to put that Reiner in human form, pretty much. 7 hours on everything.
Damn.
7 years.
of makeup every day he was shooting. Every day he was
Wow.
shooting. I was like, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, that's a hell of a
It's
Yeah.
lot of
insane.
time. Yeah. Well, hey, they made the Baron look good, so I
That
guess
that's
the extra makeup time was worth it.
that's the point, and that's what we needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of this movie was practical effects too. Like obviously there was a lot of CG and stuff like that, but there was a good amount of practical stuff done too, which was nice.
Yeah.
I want to go to favorite scenes, but I guess there's a lot of favorite scenes.
I already mentioned my favorite scene. If someone else wants to say theirs.
Um, Anybody else?
I just really enjoyed seeing the dragonfly ships. Just like any scene involving those ships is just I found it just like really cool. When the actually the one of my favorite shots is after the three ships went in to rescue like all the workers, and
The crawler? Yeah, yeah.
Timothy, yeah, from the crawler, and like Timothy was like the last one to get in, and Josh Brolin's like holding him by the hand, and Timothy's like in his knees, and the ship is like kind of flying around the sand ship, and you see this aerial shot, like downward shot of the ship being swallowed up with them in the foreground, kind of like just holding onto each other. I thought that was like a very cool shot.
Yeah. I also like that the sandworms. I mean, relate to that shot. Like as right before they like come and attack, it kind of like almost liquefies. The sand puts so much air through it that
Yeah.
people can't move, so their target can't escape. I thought that was a very cool and like practical, like animal design, where it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's cool. It was cool.
Yeah. Oh man, for me it was sad when the ecologist says I have to go another. I know my way, and when those elite soldiers catches up, but she puts the thumper, and they don't know that she puts a thumper, but just to keep hearing boom, 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 and you see far away the sunworm was going towards to the south, and and we see that as soon those soldiers, as soon they kill her, and after like few seconds the sand is changing, and we see they get eaten up by the sandworm.
Yeah.
That was sad for ecologists, I have to tell you. That was sad.
It
Yeah,
was,
it was
but
surprising too.
at least she took those three soldiers down with her.
Yeah, the 3 out of a million Harkonnen soldiers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, those
Yeah.
were the Emperor ones.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
That's why I said the elite ones. The elite ones. They're pretty much the elite soldiers. Yeah,
Yeah,
somehow.
that scene surprised me. I wasn't expecting her to die there. So when she got stabbed in like the back or the side or whatever, like that was a little bit startling. The first time I watched it, the second time I knew it was going to happen, but that first time it
Yeah,
took me off guard.
yeah. The same time, that's what happened to me too. I was like, what? But you gotta admit, Duncan was a bad fighter. He took those elites a lot, like a lot, a lot.
Yeah, that was really well choreographed too. Like him
Exactly.
fighting those elite soldiers. Like I really loved the choreography there, and he did a great job of. Well, they did a great job of like, he was good at fighting them, but he also was making mistakes. As you do against a group of enemies. So it was more realistic than him just like killing every single soldier and never getting hit.
That's right. Um,
Greenie, we didn't hear your favorite scene.
yeah.
I do really enjoy that fight scene and the ending fight scene. But as I said earlier in the movie, just like every scene was visually like beautiful and like the sound was beautiful. I mean, I really can't just point out one scene.
Okay, no, sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with. Okay, it was hard to put. It was hard to put because everything was beautifully made. Everything was beautifully made.
Just like I said, cinematography just matches everything in the movie and really well done.
All right. Are we ready to move on to our final thoughts and rating?
I think
I
so.
think
Sure.
so.
Yeah, I am.
All right, Kenobi, start us off, please.
My rating. Are we going out of 10 or out of 5?
It's out of 5.
Out of 5. Okay.
I mean, you can go to
So,
10 if you want.
I mean,
sure.
technically it's out of 10 since we have 0.5s.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
So I guess it can go out of 10. So for me, it's gonna be 9 out of 10.
So that'd be a
Uh,
4.5 on our normal
Yep.
scale.
4.5.
yeah, 4.5 out of 5.
Give us your
Uh,
reasoning for it.
um. Well, the reason why I put it like this, it's like it's not that I expected more, but like Gucci said, it was a little bit slow paced, but it was normal, from a big book, from a large book with 400 pages. You cannot put everything adapted to it. But so far, every scene was amazing. Um, so I actually missing. So I don't like. Maybe they're gonna put in part two. Because I don't know what happened to the Josh Brolin character. I'm pretty sure he's dead, and we saw him everything. But I was like
Well, he
wondering.
he
was like-
disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He disappeared, and
Yeah, in the book, he's like stuck inside of a cave, so it's possible in part 2 they'll reveal that like him and a couple troops are still trapped in a cave or something. And,
Oh, interesting.
spoilers alert!
Mhm.
Spoilers alert! Thank you very much.
well, you said you wanted to know.
Sure, thank you. Sure,
I
thank
can
you. Well,
rewind the
He,
tape.
did, he didn't
No,
really
that's
want
alright.
to know.
okay,
Be
let's
careful
hope.
what you wish for.
Okay, let's think of this. If he gets stuck in a cave, that'll be wonderful.
I mean,
That's
I always want to see more of him.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what else? Well, I guess because I'm kind of tired of prophecy thing. Like the whole thing is a prophecy. I'm just getting tired. Because
Yeah.
since you're a Star Wars fan, like the prophecies like this, the prophecies I'm like, give me a break. Please.
Yes.
Done a
And-
lot of them. Yeah.
No, I don't mind if they put this in the story, but I'm just a little bit. It sounds. How can I say it? What's the word I'm looking for? It's like the same monument, when you're talking about a hero goes on a journey and defeats the guy evil. I mean,
Yeah. It's very similar. I mean, there's so many books and stories that it's like, oh, it's a prophecy that said this, the prophecy said that, and
Exactly.
it usually ends up being it's just like, oh no, we need a white guy to come save us.
Exactly. But at the same point, I understand, and since it's a amazing book and the way how it's written with the different details of each section of development, how can I say it goes wrong? I mean, maybe if the second part comes in and I'll see it how it's gonna happen. If I'm not gonna finish the book, because if I buy the book and I finish it, I'm probably gonna know. um, that's right. Yeah, because I heard a lot of stuff like sometimes people say like finish this before you read the book, because if you finish the book, you read this, you might have a different outcome after that. So, anyways, I mean, I could put maybe 10 of 10, but let's say 10 of 10 is gonna be with a little star. Like this little star.
No, it's too late. You already said 4.5 out of 5.
Shut the hell up.
That's your score.
Shut, shush.
I'm afraid Callus is right. 4.5 out of 5, which is fine. That's a good score.
It's a great score, yeah.
All right.
Yummy.
Okay, yeah. I think everyone here already knows my rating for it, but I'll go through my little spiel. I think this is like the perfect modern space opera. It does everything so well, visually, acting, effects, music. I mean, it does it all. It has it all. Yeah, sure, it does slow down a little bit here and there, but going through and rewatching it, like, yeah, on my first watch I was feeling it, but my second watch I was really, really into it and really invested in it. And maybe it's just because I read the book or whatever. I don't know, but I have improved it from a 4.5 to a 5 out of 5 for me personally on this watch. So I think that it's a really good movie, and it's one of my favorite sci-fi flicks now.
Did you say 4.5 out of 5?
Oh, I said 5. I said it,
Oh,
I
you said
improved
You
from
said
a
It,
five.
4.5.
it improved.
So
I
five.
on my
Ah,
first watch it was a 4.5, but on this watch it's a 5 now.
okay, okay, gotcha.
All right. Yeah, going off of what Yummy said, everything was visually like beautiful. Storyline was phenomenal. Yeah, the story was a little slow paced and it took a while to, get it going, but it draws you back into it. It doesn't take long, for the movie to tell you its politics and like, how everything works out and how the planets are and all this and that and this. So, but it does have a little bit of a slow pace that I would like see improve a little bit better in the second movie or the second part. I think the second part will be really interesting, and I'll be really excited to going here on out to see like the trailer and the build up to the second part. I think the second part I'm very interested in it right now. The acting was phenomenal. Acting was great. There's like Yemi said, there was not one character where you could point out and say, yeah, that kind of threw the movie off for me. Not at all in this movie, so that's good. That's always a win. The sound phenomenal. I wish I saw this in theaters. I think it would be awesome in theaters. Like just having, just the minor, the rumbles and like the ships leaving and the ships approaching, that kind of sound. So, I think that'd be phenomenal to hear in the theaters. Um, Overall, the pacing, like I said, kind of draws me out a little bit, but I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the same um, page. I think here. I think it is a really great movie. Definitely like a modern or the new like modern sci-fi like movie. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing more universe or like more stories just in this universe than necessarily. I guess outside of Dune or the planet, maybe there's nothing good. So, but overall, I really enjoyed it. The music was great. The acting was great. Everything, like I said, the story was a little um, kind of like the whole white savior kind of thing going on, which is, I guess, when this movie came out, wasn't necessarily as big of a trope as it is now. So it's maybe the only thing I can, you know, I can defend it for. But overall, I really loved it. It was great, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
All right. Well, I also thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was my second time watching it. First time was in theaters, and I was actually looking forward to it just because I remember just how visually stunning it was, and I would just wanted to re-experience it. It's a very immersive movie for me. Like, even though there's like so much deep lore that don't know, that I don't understand, that's like going on in the background. I find all that super interesting, and I'm like, that's something about the movie that like really pulls me in. But that being said, I wouldn't put it like as one of my favorite movies of all time, because yeah, like you guys said, it's a little bit slower paced, and I would be very interested to see how I feel about this movie after watching part two, like after I understand much more, and or if I were to like read the books, like if I would feel differently. But for now, I am gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, seems like we're all
Yeah.
pretty much in the same area.
Yeah.
Pretty much, except
Yeah.
I'm waving my hand and using my Jedi mind trick.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think it's gonna work this time.
I know.
You did it for Blade Runner, not gonna do it here. We're
You
Callus,
know,
we cut
you know
off.
your tricks.
Our
Callus. You're
minds
still
have
awake.
become stronger since then.
Yeah. No, I
What?
wasn't. I wasn't here for when we did Blade Runner, so my vote,
Yeah, that's right.
which
That's
shows why you all would have
Yeah, that's why
thought the
Taylor's a
same
slow
as
movie.
me if Kenobi hadn't been here. So
All
you
right.
can't get a scan.
Mm.
Or
Well,
me for the
How do
first
you
one.
know?
maybe in the future they'll be able to do it again. But
Yeah.
right now we're all strong-willed.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I agree
fine,
with
fine.
Callus that after seeing the second one, I might revisit. My score might change for this one. Might go up.
I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well,
Is there any word on when the second one comes out? Or
November of
well,
2023.
oh, okay, it's not bad.
well,
Not
there's
bad.
also gonna be a TV show.
Of course there is.
Of
Christopher
course, yeah.
Walken's going to be in part 2, so you know it's going to be
Ooh,
Really?
fantastic.
yeah, that's gonna be a 6 out of 5 for me.
Well, maybe after I watch part two times, my whole vote will be different. Maybe
Yeah.
become 10-10 on both of them.
Maybe.
Yeah. But the reason no, because the reason I ask is also I feel like Dave Bautista's as actor also should be played a little bit more, like
I think we had enough Dave Bautista. Like if there
yeah,
was
yeah.
more of him in the movie, I think the acting thing would be like, oh, there was
A
one
little lower.
performance.
No,
Because
he
Yeah.
like the
played.
scenes that he's in, like he does fine, but he's just playing Drax, except without the, funny
That's that's
lines.
that's that's the point. That's the point. But I feel like there's more to the Dave Bautista's character than just playing
Well,
a
they'll
strong
probably
dude.
have
You know.
more so in the second movie. We'll just have to see because part one. I mean, this was obviously a huge like setup movie for part two.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that we'll probably see more of every character in the second movie. But like I said, I'm fine with how much we saw Dave Bautista. It's the Saving Private Ryan thing. Because Vin Diesel was in Saving Private Ryan. A lot of people forget because he's only in like 5 minutes of the movie. But those 5 minutes where he's in that movie is painful because he's so bad in the movie.
Well, he got shot by a sniper.
Yeah, he got shot by a sniper. Thank goodness he's out.
I'm sorry.
Saving Private Ryan used to be one of my favorite movies, and I rewatched it like a couple years ago, and Vin Diesel literally single-handedly drags that movie down from like a 5 to a 4.5. Like his just 10-minute segment is just so bad. He doesn't look the character. He doesn't talk like he's bad. He's very bad.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I like him in Riddick. Okay, the Riddick movies are great, but stay away from my World War II era historical movie. Okay, thank you.
Wow, you're so mean, Yemmy. You're so mean.
He's a millionaire. What does he care what I have to say?
He can handle
Yeah.
it.
Speaking of favorite movies of all time, Callus recently suggested one of his favorite movies of all time, which was Crimson Tide. And I thought, you know what? Instead of doing a Christmas movie, fuck Christmas, whatever. Instead of doing a Christmas movie, I'm
Wow.
also going to pick one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is The Grand Budapest Hotel from 2014, which was directed by Wes Anderson. You can
Oh,
you can find
yes.
this one on Amazon. I misread it before the podcast. You can find it on Amazon the rent if you want to.
Okay.
The synopsis is The Grand Budapest Hotel tells of a legendary concierge at a famous European hotel between the wars and his friendship with a young employee who becomes his trusted protege. The story involves the theft and recovery of a priceless Renaissance painting, the battle of an infamous family fortune, and the slow and then sudden upheavals that transformed Europe during the first half of the 20th century. So it's been a while since I've watched this one, but obviously it is one of those movies that I remember very, very, very fondly. So I was thinking, it's time for me to watch this movie again and see if it holds up to my past thoughts on it. So you can find it on Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, etc. But it's not on Netflix or HBO Max or anything like that. So you will have to rent it.
Oh man, I love this movie. Good
I've
pick.
never seen it, so it'll be an interesting one to watch.
Nice.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
this is another movie that when I was younger I gave it a 5. So we'll see if it holds up. I don't want to put too many expectations into people's heads, but It was a very fun movie, and I love Wes Anderson's style. As you know, I've rated the French Dispatch 5 out of 5, and this one has a very similar style of like quick, snappy edits and good and
Yeah.
funny dialogue along with some serious parts. So I'm very excited to revisit this, and hopefully on this watch it'll solidify its place as one of my favorite movies. All right. So if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you want to join the conversation for the Grand Budapest Hotel, make sure you watch that before the next episode airs in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we will reconvene to talk about that movie. And also, don't forget, if you want to suggest movies for our vote, just like Kenobi has done in the past twice now, make sure you comment on the latest episode of Film Freaks on YouTube, join the Discord, or just send us an email. Usually people recommend another movie during their episode. Kenobi, do you have one to recommend to us?
I'm calling dibs right now for Dune Part 2, so nobody can choose it.
Okay.
But yeah, as soon as it goes to a small screen, we change it. But so for now, I'm going to Alien, the first
Ooh.
one from Ridley Scott.
All right, I will mark you
Alright.
down for Alien. So yeah, if you want to be just like Kenobi and get your film talked about eventually on the podcast, make sure you do what I said, and you could show up on a future episode. Hmm? Well, anyway, thank you so much to Kenobi for coming on to the podcast. Always a pleasure to have you on. Is there anything that you want to plug or say before we end the show?
Yes, I have an important little citation to tell you. Fear is the mind killer.
Damn.
Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop, yeah. All right. Well, with those
Yeah,
words,
I just love that when they said that. I was like, damn, was a powerful scene right there, by Jessica.
Yeah.
and of course, once again, if you want to join Kenobi's Sci-Fi Discord, I'll also leave a join link for that. It's a place full of sci-fi love to the brim. I mean, filled to the brim with sci-fi love. I mean, sci-fi topics all over the place. So if you would think that would be a fun thing to join, go ahead and go down to the description and click on that link. Does anyone else have anything they want to say before we end the show?
Just the usual. Be
Yeah,
sure to
he
clean
does.
your ass.
Of course, got to.
Always, every day.
All right. Well, I am Yemmy the Duke, and I've been here with.
Dune waffles.
Baron Tay.
The chosen one, Cal S. Gaib.
And General Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And this has been Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Power to the sand or something.
Yeah. Desert power.
Desert power.
Desert power?
And may the Force be with you.
In the
And
desert.
so with you, always.